Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a fun one because I'm going to be discussing some palettes that I wanted, but I'm really glad I didn't purchase. You guys may have been able to figure it out by now, but I am kind of an eyeshadow junkie. I just love eyeshadow. I love color stories, I love packaging, I love all of it. So a lot of eyeshadow palettes that launch, I usually want, at least at some point anyway. I go through phases, and there are some that I did want at one point that now I'm just so happy I didn't buy, and we're going to talk about those today. However, I still have my eye on a lot of palettes. I always have, and I probably always will. If I keep looking behind me, I'm sorry. I've been listening to so much true crime lately, and I am terrified. I'm home alone, and I'm just scared someone's gonna be in the doorway when I look, so I just keep like checking over my shoulder. Does anyone else do that? Does anyone else watch so much true crime that they freak themselves out? Anyway, it's not good for me. I should stop, but I can't stop. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into it. I'm gonna scooch over so that my editing self doesn't hate me. So I have a list. It's pretty extensive. I've wanted a lot of eyeshadow palettes in the past. These are the main ones that come to mind though, like as of recently. Like these are the big ones, if that makes sense. So first I want to talk about Natasha Denona. There's a couple of her palettes on this list. The first one I want to talk about is the Metropolis palette. So when the Metropolis palette first came out, I was really eyeing it. I really enjoy the color story. I think it's beautiful. I really like the concept. I know the quality is going to be good, but I sat on it for a little bit and I'm so happy I did. That's the thing. I don't know what I'm doing with my hand here. I used to be a really bad impulse purchaser. I would buy things like on launch day. Now I don't do that anymore. I just sit back and I wait and I determine if this purchase would be a really good fit for me in my collection. And though the Natasha Denona Metropolis palette is really beautiful and I don't have a ton of her palettes, I only have the Sunrise, I think. I just feel like for $170, now that I've sat back and you know the hype is gone, I just think that there are too many similar shades to justify that $170 price tag. It's 170 Canadian and that's a lot of money. Oh, I'm tired today. I'm sorry. I haven't been sleeping well lately. I've only been getting like 6 hours of sleep a night. So, but yeah, a lot of the colors, like there's a lot of those browns. They just become a little bit redundant, I think, in that palette, which normally I wouldn't mind and I'd still be open to purchasing it. It's just for the $170. I want like a color story that I'm absolutely crazy about. Another thing I really wanted from Natasha Denona is the Tropic palette. This is a bit of an old one. I want to say that this was like a 2018 launch, maybe something like that anyway, but I still love this color story for my skin tone and for me personally. I love it. However, I did sit back and watch the reviews, and a lot of people said that it wasn't the same formula that she usually puts out and that it was a bit of a lower quality palette. And again, for that price tag, I was not about to sacrifice the quality. However, if we're just looking at color story, I would still purchase this palette. I think it is so beautiful. I could stare at it all day, frankly. But again, for such a high price tag that Natasha Denona usually puts on her palettes, I want like a fantastic color story that I really vibe with, as well as a solid formula. So I feel like the Metropolis palette lacked the color story that I was after, and then the Tropic palette kind of lacked the quality. So those both were palettes that at one point I was very interested in purchasing and almost did. Especially that Tropic palette, like I was this close, and then I decided to look up reviews and thank goodness I did. Maybe if the Tropic palette like went on crazy sale or something, I would consider it, but as it stands, I just don't want to pay full price for either of those products. So the product that kind of inspired this video, it was actually the first set of palettes that I wrote down, was the Norvina Palettes. I really wanted these. I think the reason that I wanted these so much when they first launched is because I had a serious case of FOMO, because a lot of my friends are on the Anastasia Beverly Hills PR list, a lot of my peers, and they were all so excited about these large palettes, and I just had a serious case of FOMO, which still happens to me from time to time, don't get me wrong, but I've gotten a lot better with it. I've just kind of accepted that it is what it is. And I get a lot of other products that I normally wouldn't get to try, and I get them sent to me from different brands. So I'm learning to just be grateful for what I get instead of looking at what other people have going on in their lives and their current PR situation and being jealous of that. Don't get me wrong, I still have my moments, but I'm getting a lot better. I don't even know if I've mentioned what I'm talking about. It's the Norvina Pro Palettes. Did I say that yet? Maybe not, I don't know. The Pro palette that speaks to me the most personally is the the third edition. I really like that one, the orange with the butterflies. I still enjoy that one, but it has gone on sale a couple times and I still didn't pick it up. So I think I'm kind of over that whole thing now. What I've noticed about myself is that I'm very much a collector, and once I buy that third palette, the one that I actually like, I'll feel the need to buy numbers 1, 2, and 4 as well. So I'm just gonna pass on that whole series of palettes altogether. I don't know, I'm just kind of over it. And a big reason for being over those palettes is I really like a smaller, concise color story lately. And those are just huge. Honestly, I'm sure each palette has a couple of shades that I would really enjoy. But in the grand scheme of things, the larger palettes, like I just get very overwhelmed looking at those palettes. I don't know if it's just the sheer size of them or if it's the way those shades are organized, but all three of those palettes just really overwhelm me, or four. They all just really overwhelm me when I look at them, except for the third. I really enjoy the third. And again, I waited for reviews because those things are not cheap. They're quite pricey. Apparently, it's not even the regular Anastasia formula that I personally love, and I know a lot of other people do too. So since it's not even the same formula, that was like the final straw where I was like, okay, I think I definitely have decided that I'm not interested in purchasing this. So yeah, those are the palettes that inspired this whole video. So thanks, Norvina. Next up is the Colourpop Going Coconuts palette. Again, I kind of think that this might have been a case of FOMO for me. The way Colourpop PR works, it's a little strange. I don't really know what I'm getting versus what I'm not. Sometimes I'll get like 3 Colourpop packages in one day, and then other times I won't get a Colourpop package for like a month. It's very strange and it's very sporadic, so I wasn't sure if I was going to get this palette in PR, and I kind of like to sit on it and wait it out if it's something I'm interested in. The exception being the Raw Beauty Christie palette, because I knew that was going to out, and thank goodness I bought it because I didn't get that in PR. My point is I normally don't do that, but I never got it in PR and a lot of my peers did, and I thought it was a really pretty palette at the time. I still do. However, I probably have very similar shades in the Bare Necessities or Stone Cold Fox palettes that I have. Those both have cooler and warmer neutrals, and I feel like I already have the shades from the Going Coconuts palette in my collection already. I just don't know why I really wanted that palette. I saw everyone else having it and I just wanted it, and it sold out multiple times. Like, a lot of people really like that palette, so because it was like super hyped up, I kind of felt like I was missing out and I was gonna purchase it, but I'm glad I didn't because I definitely already have those shades in my collection. So yeah, it just goes to show how far social media hype can go. It makes me want things that I already have in my collection just because other people like it. So glad I didn't purchase that one because I don't think I would use it much, honestly. And again, it kind of goes back to that collector mentality. I have so many Colourpop 9 pans that would just add to my collection, and which would be very satisfying, but I don't need it. It's funny because I find that all of these palettes, like, they're all very similar brands. There's a lot of repeat brands, and I want their palettes for the same reasons, and then I don't buy their palettes for the same reasons. It's kind of weird. I've definitely noticed a pattern while doing my research for this video, or I guess preparing for this video. So the next brand I want to talk about, I've wanted a couple palettes from her, and there's 2 that made this list. Huda Beauty. She gets me, man. She gets me with those palettes. First of all, I have the, what is it? What's the one I have? Desert Dusk. I have that one. I enjoy it. I don't think it's fantastic, but I do enjoy it, and I like that all of her palettes are cohesive. I think they're all 18 pans, I want to say. And I love that, again, that collector's mentality. They're all very similar, so it's kind of like I can collect them all, but I don't need to, especially because I find the quality a little bit dodgy. So the first one that I had on my list, I really wanted the new Nude palette when it first came out. Again, I feel like a lot of the Huda Beauty palettes I want because of FOMO, because a lot of my friends are on their PR list and they always keep getting products, so I want those products too, so I want to go out and buy them. Not only that, but I thought that the new Nude palette was very beautiful. I just really like the rosy tones in that palette. I think they're stunning. But the thing that continues to get me with Huda Beauty is her shimmer formula. So for the new Nude palette, they had those shimmer shades that looked almost chunky. I don't know, it's kind of strange, but in the pan, they had a very different look than what typical shimmer shades look like. And I still don't think that I have seen these shades in person. However, seeing them actually applied to the eye on social media, I'm really glad I didn't purchase this. So for the new Nude palette, that was probably the biggest thing that I was into, were those shimmer shades. I definitely have dupes of all the mattes in my collection already. I really like shimmer though, and I really like unique shimmer shades, so I thought that those, you know, like the texture just looked different and I just had to try it. So I thought they would be super unique and like really nice additions to my collection. But then I saw people applying them on their actual eyes and swatching them out, and they're just your average shimmer shades. I was really disappointed actually when I saw them actually applied to the lid. I was like, oh, That's it. It looks like your average metallic. And again, it also goes back to price. Her prices for her palettes are not cheap. I believe they're approximately $85 Canadian, which is just like craziness to me. That's just so expensive, especially for a very mediocre formula in my personal opinion. So yeah, I think that one was definitely a FOMO thing and also an intrigue thing. I feel like at least with Huda, she does try to like switch it up and do something different for her launches. Like I'm pretty sure she was one of the first brands that I had personally seen to come out with pressed glitters. There was a pressed glitter in the Desert Dusk palette that I have, and I haven't touched it because I don't think I like the formula, but I had never seen a pressed glitter before, and I was just like, that is craziness. And now they're everywhere. You can't get rid of them. I mean, they've probably existed before Huda, but I just think that that was the first time that there was a really hyped up product that I personally wanted where there was a pressed glitter. Does that make sense? Hopefully. Also with Huda Beauty, I wanted to purchase that palette because I was really kind of itching to try and get on her PR list, which I don't really do anymore. If I want something, I will purchase it because I am being so choosy of what I will purchase. But before, you know, like you see all of your peers and all of your friends getting all these cool PR lists, you want to get on them too. It makes you feel like special in a way. So what I used to do was I would purchase their products and use their products in my posts, and I would use their products in my posts on Instagram in attempt to try to grab their attention. So I think the whole image and fantasy of Huda Beauty and the new nude palette was definitely more of what was driving me to purchase that palette versus the actual product itself. So now looking back, I'm so happy I did not cave and I did not give in to peer pressure. I'm very happy about that. Another Huda Beauty palette that I was also interested in. This was a more recent launch, so I didn't want it for the FOMO or the PR reasons because it was more recent. I have gotten a lot better about not purchasing products for that reason. It's the Huda Beauty Naughty palette. The reason that I wanted this one was for the swirly shimmers. That is it. The color story, I could take it or leave it. I'm not huge into that color story and I probably have those shades a million times over, but those shimmers, the shimmer swirly shades, I wanted that. I don't think she's the first brand to have done that. I think I've seen her do it in other palettes too. I could be wrong about that though. But that one, I don't know. I was just like, oh, it'll be the perfect sister to my Desert Dusk palette and those swirly shimmers. The swirly shimmers. I really like that idea. I don't know why I like that idea so much because obviously when you swatch it or use it, you're gonna like mix the two swirls together and it's gonna create one potentially ugly shadow. Like you don't actually know what it's gonna look like when you just look at it in the pan for the first time. So it could go either way. It could be really beautiful, but it could also be like kind of ugly. But again, that newer concept, I was just so into it. I was so about it, loved it. I was like, yes, need that. But again, looking back, I'm very happy that I did not purchase it just for those shades because it was all just a fantasy. When you actually swatch out those swirly shadows, they're just shimmers at the end of the day and they were very basic looking, and I'm really happy that I waited to see swatches and that I waited for reviews because I was able to come to the conclusion that that palette just wasn't for me. And I think if I had it, it would probably be a makeup regret, honestly, especially for $85. That's so expensive. Oh, okay. This is gonna be kind of an interesting one. I've never talked about his brand on my channel, I don't think. The Jeffree Star Blood Sugar palette. Girl, I wanted this so bad and I knew that it was gonna sell out so fast. I loved the color story. I fell in love with the concept. It was a medical concept, blood sugar, medical, but also kind of sweet. Like I thought the concept was genius. The color story, beautiful. I heard the formula was really good, but I have never liked Jeffree and I refused to support him for a very long time. Actually, it's one of my bigger flexes in life that I have never bought anything from Jeffree Star Cosmetics. So that's pretty cool. I didn't give in to, again, the peer pressure. I'm happy because especially now with his reputation, and I'm just like, I knew it. I knew you were still a crappy person. So I'm very happy that I did not purchase the Blood Sugar palette, even though like creatively and aesthetically, oh, genius, love it. And the thing is, I don't mind saying that. I don't mind giving credit where credit is due. And he, you know, put obviously a lot of time, thought, and effort into that palette. And I think it paid off and I think it's really beautiful. However, again, I just don't like him. I don't like what he stands for, and I've known that for a very long time, so I'm really happy that I didn't purchase this palette and like overlook that, because I know if I had it in my collection now, it probably would have been decluttered, just because I probably would have felt guilty, honestly. So yeah, I'm really happy that I did not make that purchase. And the other thing from Jeffree Star that I'm really happy I didn't purchase is the Conspiracy palette. First of all, now looking back, I feel like this palette is just straight up ugly. I really don't like the color story. Packaging is pretty cool. Jeffree Star Cosmetics always kills it with their packaging. It's really innovative and unique, but still pretty practical. The palettes are a little bit bulky, but it's such cool packaging. I feel like I wouldn't complain. I used to love Shane Dawson. I really, really did. Like, loved him. I feel like I always have a soft spot in my heart for Shane, just because I did love him for so long. Like, big fan for sure. But I didn't purchase that because I still didn't like Jeffree, and I didn't like the color story as well. And I knew that that launch was going to be so crazy just because of the hype leading up to it. I was like, I'm not even going to go through the trouble of purchasing that palette. And now looking back on it, with both of their reputations kind of in the trash, and you know, the palette being sold at TJ Maxx, I've seen a couple videos of people talking about that, and the fact that I didn't even really like the color story to begin with. It was just going to be more of like a collector's piece for me. I'm really happy that I did not fall into the hype. I'm just so happy that I just kind of, you know, sat back and let everyone else enjoy it, because again, I probably just would have felt guilty for supporting Jeffree. Not even so much about Shane, because I, you know, used to watch all of his videos. I've clearly supported him in one way or another, but Jeffree, I would have felt guilty for supporting him. So I don't know. I'm happy I didn't purchase that palette altogether. I feel like both the Conspiracy and the Blood Sugar palettes would have just been a declutter for me eventually. They just would have been like a nagging reminder that you purchased from a really crappy person. So I'm happy I didn't purchase either of those. And finally, one other palette that I'm happy I didn't purchase that I was kind of intrigued about at first is the Urban Decay Naked Ultraviolet Palette. Sorry, I don't know where my voice is going. I don't even remember what I was talking about. Oh yeah, the Ultraviolet palette. I just like kind of spaced out there for like a whole minute. So yes, when that palette first launched, I really enjoyed the color story. I thought it was very beautiful with that pop of light blue. One thing I wish is that they didn't call it Naked Ultraviolet, like maybe just Ultraviolet palette, because it's not naked at that point, you know what I mean? But for the color story, I was really enjoying it. I thought the purples were beautiful. I love purple eyeshadow. And then I saw swatches and I saw videos about it, and I'm really happy I didn't purchase it, like so happy. The formula just seemed like very mediocre at best. It seems like Urban Decay just hasn't updated their formula in years, and everyone else's formula has continuously improved. So while their eyeshadow formula, like however many years ago, was right here, now everyone is up here and they're still kind of hanging out down here. So that's why I'm glad I didn't buy that palette, just because the quality of those shadows, especially purples can be tricky to do. And I'm just very happy overall that I did wait it out and see swatches and such, because a lot of people didn't really love the formula of that one. And I don't like the pan size. I don't like the long skinny pans because I feel like it's hard to get a bigger blending brush in it. That's just a petty thing, but like, just thought I'd throw that in there. I'm currently battling with myself the new Urban Decay Wild West palette, the Naked Wild West. I don't know why I want it. Honestly, I kind of roasted it. I think it was in my last video, something like that. I roasted it, but I'm kind of a sucker for that packaging. It's very beautiful. And I do like those two pops of teal, but I don't need it. I don't need it. Again, I probably have those shades in my collection like 10 times over, except for the teals, and I can just buy teal singles if I really like those. But the packaging's so pretty. But I'm sure if I did purchase the Naked Wild West palette today, it would be something that I regret like 6 months from now. So I'm gonna hold off. I probably won't buy it, but I might. I still might. I haven't completely written it off, but probably not. Anyways, that's just what I'm grappling with myself right now. Anyways, I think that is it from me today. What are some eyeshadow palettes that you were really interested in at one point that you're so happy now that you did not purchase? Let me know in the comments down below. I feel like this is like a really interesting concept, and I'd be really interested to know your answers. Let me know in the comments down below. I feel like this is such a fun concept, and I'd be really interested to know your answers. So yeah, that is it for me today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far, please subscribe if you have not yet. If you don't want to subscribe, that's okay. I just really appreciate you watching my video. It really helps out my channel by you watching, so thank you. Please leave any video requests you may have in the comments down below, and I will see you in my next one. Bye guys.